So I'm obviously not in my usual room right now, I'm actually away. However, I still wanted to do a corset review for you. I don't want to go too long without making a review. So this is the Axfords Overbust Corset C112. So here's the front, the side, the back, and the other side. So the center front of this is 12.5 inches, and then from the apex of the bust down to the bottom is about 13 inches. In terms of the circumferential measurements, this is actually very, very comfortable. It's much curvier than I was expecting. It doesn't pinch my hips, it doesn't pinch my ribcage or anything like that. However, because of my long torso, I would definitely always have to wear a blouse with this. It is advertised as an overbust corset. However, I would say it's more along the lines of a demibust, and it actually barely comes up to even demibust on me. So anybody who has a longer torso definitely plan to wear a shirt underneath this. People who have a bit of a shorter torso than I do, average to shorter, then I think this would actually be quite flattering for you. Okay, so here's the corset lying flat, and in terms of the material, if I open this up here, the strength layer is the inside lining in here, and I apologize for the bad lighting, but the inside lining is black, and it's a very tightly woven cotton couture. Some might be saying, well, I don't see a herringbone weave on this, how can it be couture? Corset couture doesn't necessarily have to have a herringbone weave. There are several different types, including satin couture. So this is tightly woven, just a plain weave cotton couture. And Axfords actually has a group of people that weave their strength fabric and their satins exclusively for their corsets. So on top of the strength fabric, the satin is flatlined to it, this red satin here, and then the lace is flatlined over top of the satin. So it's not a lace print, it's actual real lace that's over top of the satin here, and I don't think the camera is really doing it justice. It's much prettier in person. So you can see here at the bottom, I just picked out a little bit of the binding so that I could peek inside and take a look at how it was constructed. And it was constructed using top stitching, so it's faux flat felled together. All the layers were flat lined together and then stitched flat felled to the other panels. And then if you look inside here, and once again, I apologize for the lighting, but if you look inside here, you can see there are internal boning channels in here made from twill tape or Persian tape. I do not feel a waist tape in here, however, I could be wrong. If there is no waist tape, then I would probably only wear this corset to a max reduction of about 4 inches. However, I have talked to other people who wear their Axfords corsets at a reduction of 6 or more inches, so it seems to be very sturdily built. And while I was breaking this in, it really did not stretch that much at all. If I hold this on an angle, you might be able to see that the binding at the top and bottom is a kind of satin on one side and more of a grosgrain ribbon texture on the other side. It's different. I'm used to seeing other people, other corsetteers use plain commercial bias binding, and Axfords doesn't do that. It's really kind of a ribbon, and it's neatly finished on both sides, neatly machine stitched on both sides, so I thought it was really interesting that they decided to do something different to all the other corset companies. Here's the Modesty panel at the back. It's about 5 inches wide, and I love this lacing protector. It's not boned, but it is stiffened with something. You can see I kind of can make it stand up on its own. However, it's still flexible, so when I'm lacing down, I don't have to adjust this whatsoever, but it also curves really nicely with the contours of my spine, so it's very comfortable. And for the front, there's no Modesty placket behind the Busk. However, there is a placket in front of the Busk here, this little flap that actually hides the brackets of the Busk so that it gives you just a really nice smooth visual line in the front of the corset. And speaking of the bust, you can see here is the busk. It's about 11.5 inches long, and it is a full inch wide on each side. They did not use the standard flexible busk. This is a heavy-duty busk, and you can see that it's actually quite difficult to bend. In terms of the boning, the placement of the bones is actually a little bit difficult to see on this corset because of the lace overlay, but I'm just going to point out to you where they are. There are 14 bones total in this corset, 10 spiral steel bones, 5 on each side, so 1 on each panel basically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there, and another 5 on the other side. And so you can see the spiral steel bone in there, and you can see it's actually quite hefty. They used 7 or 8 millimeter wide spiral steel boning instead of the typical 5 millimeter wide spiral boning. So this is actually sturdier. It's still flexible, but it's much sturdier, and believe me, you can feel the difference. In addition to the spiral bones, there are also another 4 spring steel bones on either side of the grommets here, and they are quite sturdy, quite thick. You can see that the back of the corset does not bend very easily. In terms of the grommets, there are 32 size 00 grommets in the back here, and I found it interesting that they prefer to use 00 grommets instead of size 0 grommets. On the outside here, you can see that the grommets are quite smooth. They're very nicely put in. None of them are popping out or fraying. On the underside here, however, you can see that there are multiple splits on the underside of the grommets. Those are not going to show up on the outside, so it doesn't have any visual effect since it's on the inside of the corset here. However, when I saw this, I was initially concerned that the splits in the grommets were going to catch on the laces, cause unnecessary tension or friction, and cause the grommets to rip out. However, after a couple of weeks of seasoning this corset, I have not found anything of that sort. I think it has a lot to do with the laces that they use, because it is quite very tightly woven. It does not catch on these split grommets. However, I am going to do a video tutorial a little bit later on showing you how you can use epoxy glue to actually fill in all the splits of the grommets so that it gives you a very smooth finish, and you don't have to worry about any sort of laces or ribbons catching in the split grommets. And another thing about their laces is that they give you actually a very long length of them. I would say probably 8 or even 10 meters of them. When I'm lacing up my corset, they actually reach the floor. So I find that very convenient because I can actually hook the laces over a doorknob and get a tighter cinch if I have the laces long enough. So if you're one of those people, if you find it really annoying where some other corset companies that just don't give you laces that seem to be long enough, you don't have to worry about that if you're buying from Axfords. The price for this particular corset on Axfords' website is £135. However, if you want a corset in this same shape but without the lace overlay, you can get it for £125. So that's all for this review, and I'll be back hopefully in a few days for the next corset review. I'll talk to you all later. Bye!